Welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 500,000 subscribers. So hit subscribe, watch, keep the comments coming, and share with a friend because the insanity, it's not stopping. Now, I want to say this. I recently wrote a Substack. I have a new Substack out there about what I refer to as the sphere of influence. All right. Now, I just want to give you a little background on it because historically, all right, the sphere of influence is a term that's ripped straight from the colonial playbook. Remember those days when imperial powers carved up the world like they did slices of pizza? Well, I want to discuss it in a video that I had done with my co-host, Ben Meiselas, on Political Beatdown, because it applies to the way right now that Trump is approaching Canada and Mexico and our other allies, as well as our adversaries. So again, the other day on Political Beatdown with Ben, we break it down for you, where I explain exactly what's going on here and how dangerous this is to all of us. Play the clip.
Tulsi Gabbard testified before the Senate. She was asked by Senator Warner about the materials that we showed, the war plans, clear war plans. Here's what the Director of National Intelligence had to say. Play this clip.
Contact the Defense Secretary or others after this specific military planning was put out and say, hey, we should be doing this in a skiff?
There was no classified material that was shared in that.
So then if there was no
check.
classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security. Bobbing and weaving and trying to, filibuster your answer. So please answer.
Well, you see the chat right there. Here, Tulsi Gabbard refuses to answer Warner's question about the Signal group chat. Let's play this clip.
Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not, are you denying, Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security Council.
Because it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
stated, is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Meanwhile, she's posting Russian propaganda on her personal account right now, like as we speak. Like over the past few weeks, she's reposting Russian propaganda. She's asked about that by Congress member Jim Himes, the ranking Democrat of the Intelligence Committee. Let's play it.
You, on March 15th, as DNI, retweeted a post from Ian Miles Chong, who is listed on RT, that's Russia Today's website, as, quote, a political and cultural commentator who has contributed content to RT since at least 2022. Director Gabbard, do you think that it's responsible for you as head of the intelligence community and the principal presidential intelligence advisor to retweet posts from individuals affiliated with Russian state media?
That retweet came from my personal account, and I would have to go back to look at the substance of the tweet.
Can I, just so that we don't have a lack of confusion amongst our allies and enemies and us, can I act perhaps that you not think that you should be saying one thing on your personal account than you say officially?
I maintain my First Amendment rights to be able to express my own personal views on different issues.
Thank you. I yield back.
I maintain my
her First Amendment rights. What about the First Amendment right of the tough student, the one that was surrounded by those DHS agents, by the FBI agents, and removed from Massachusetts and sent to Louisiana? Or how about the Brown professor? Or how about the kid from Cornell? Now, I don't know whether or not these folks are actually, affiliated in any way, shape, or form to Hamas. their students, their professor, whatever it might be. If they are, good riddance. But how about due process rights? How about a First Amendment constitutional right? How about, for example, my constitutional right when they remanded me? Do you remember how many times that I tried to warn Ben, the American people, about different things? How in 2018, before the House Oversight Committee, I warned America that if Trump loses in 2020, that there will never be a peaceful transfer of power. Well, this morning, I kind of at 4 a.m., I had this thought that here comes another prediction, one that's even scarier than that one. And I did my Substack on it, which I called Sphere of Influence or Imperial Delusion. And in it, I want to just say one thing, Ben, and then I kind of want to get your sort of take on this one. Most people don't even understand the concept of the sphere of influence. I believe that Trump right now is trying to distract the American people with all of this DHS stuff, with the tariffs he's placing on Canada and the tariffs now on pharmaceuticals, all of which will increase your costs. Not take it away, like he said, but increase it. But the sphere of influence is a historical term that is legitimately ripped from the colonial playbook, when imperial powers carved up the world like slices of a pizza pie, all right, deciding who got to dominate where. In this crazy, warped Trump view, this concept is not a historical relic. It is a roadmap for unchecked authoritarian expansion. It's why you are hearing things like, let's take Panama, let's take Greenland, let's annex Canada, let's take over Mexico. It is not just about Putin and Xi Jinping sketching out the borders of their empire. Trump himself envisions his own empire, again, including Canada, Mexico. All right. That, my friends, is what we need to be concerned about, because that is ultimately what Project 2025 is all about.
You know, when it seemed that Donald Trump just assumed with tariffs and the threats that he would get all of these countries in his sphere, as he saw it, that they would fold right away, that he would say tariffs and they would say, we're so, they would become MAGA mush, like the MAGA Republicans have become. And I think he's shocked and pissed and frantic right now that Canada stood up to him. I think he's genuinely shocked at what happened in Canada, where he thought that Trudeau was going to be weak and the Liberals were going to be weak. And meanwhile, the Liberals stood up. They passed the torch to Prime Minister Mark Carney, who's been incredible. The banker in Carney versus the bankrupter in Donald Trump. The Canadian people have rallied. Heck, even the Conservative Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, distancing himself from Pierre Poilievre, the MAGA-ish, not MAGA-ish, the MAGA conservative federal parliament leader. And even you have Doug Ford saying, yeah, I'm not putting distance between Poilievre, which is a crazy concept that you're having that tension even within the Conservative Party there. But Canadians uniting right now against the United States, the boycott against all things American, Cohen, it's like a 75 to 80% not travel boycott right now. And those numbers as well, when it comes to American products in Canada, they just sit on the shelf.
First of all, 68% of Americans are unhappy with what Trump is doing in terms of tariffs and the conversation that he's constantly attacking Canada. 68% of Americans are unhappy with that. That in and of itself should be enough for them to change course. Now, Ben, I just want to say one thing about this Midas Touch Network and why, I put out this Substack, this sphere of influence. I did it because, tell me, has anybody else heard this concept of sphere of influence being talked about on whether it's mainstream media or cable news media? The answer is no, you haven't. Why? Well, because it doesn't play into whatever narrative that they are currently trying to play, which is to be aggressive towards Trump, but in a very respectful way. So in that way, they don't have the FBI, the CIA, NSA, etc., or the Attorney General of the United States coming down on them. Midas Touch Network, independent, completely different, where people like myself can engage with our viewers, and you can hear from somebody who knows the guy better than anybody else what's going on in this guy's mind. I called it not once, not twice, a handful of times when my predictions, as crazy as people thought that they were, I can't tell you the number of people that sort of made fun of me when I turned around and I said that if Trump loses in 2020, there will never be a peaceful transfer of power. Oh, fuck you, Michael. You're just trying to gaslight. That's hyperbolic. You're just being dystopian, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me remind you of January 6th. Now, I don't care what the GOP wants to call the insurrection. All right. It is what it was. And we all saw it. We all heard what was going on there. And I am freaking nervous that everything that I'm telling you about this sphere of influence is what they are actually trying to accomplish. Slice the world up into different sort of empires, and then you'll have basically 4 or 5 warlords running the entire earth. Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.